The cold winter wind made loud noises as it blew across the empty grass fields. Thomas Bennet stood by his kitchen window and watched the white snow getting higher and higher against his barn doors. He was 50 years old and had been taking care of his cattle farm by himself for 3 years. His wife Emma had died from a terrible sickness called cancer. The big old house felt too empty and too quiet for Thomas. His daughter Lucy now lived far away in the big city of London. She had her own busy life there. Sometimes Lucy would call her father on the phone. Thomas could hear that she was worried about him when she asked if he was eating good food or if he needed help with anything. Thomas always told her he was doing fine. But this was not always true. That evening, the winter storm got much worse. Thomas heard a car engine making struggling sounds outside his house. He looked through the window and saw car lights trying to shine through the heavy falling snow. A small blue car had slipped off the road and was now stuck in the deep snow near his front gate. Thomas put on his thick winter coat and heavy boots. He picked up a flashlight and walked through the deep snow to reach the car. Inside the car, he found a young woman who had kind eyes but looked very worried and scared. "Are you hurt anywhere?" Thomas shouted through the car window because the wind was very loud. Double quote snow. "I am not hurt, but my car will not start now," the woman said as she rolled down her car window. "My name is Dr. Kate Wilson. I was driving to the Murphy farm to help their sick horses, but this bad storm started so suddenly." Thomas looked at the car that was stuck very deep in the snow. "You cannot drive anywhere tonight in this weather. Please come inside my house where it is warm and safe." As Thomas and Kate walked toward his house, Thomas saw another person fighting to walk through the snow on the road. It was an older woman carrying a big heavy suitcase. The strong wind was blowing her grey hair all round her face. "Excuse me." Thomas called out to her. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The older woman looked up at Thomas and her face showed great relief. "Oh, thank you so much. My name is Mary Fletcher. The bus I was riding broke down about 1 mile back down the road. I have been walking in this snow, but I cannot feel my fingers anymore because they are so cold." Thomas helped Mary carry her heavy suitcase. "Come with us. Let me get both of you inside my warm house." Just as the 3 people reached Thomas's front porch, they all heard a very small voice coming from behind the big old oak tree that grew near the house. "Please help me. I am so very cold." Thomas pointed his flashlight toward the sound of the voice, behind the tree. He found a young girl who looked like she might be 19 years old. She was sitting against the tree trunk trying to stay warm. Her clothes were very thin and wet from the snow. "What are you doing outside in this terrible storm?" Thomas asked the girl in a gentle and kind voice. "I was trying to get rides from cars passing by." The girl said in a very quiet voice, "My name is Grace Miller. I do not have any place to go right now." Thomas looked at all 3 women who were shaking from the cold. His first thought was to try to help them find some other place to stay for the night. He had not had people staying in his house for a very long time, but the storm was getting much worse every minute, and the closest town was 15 miles away from his farm. "Well," Thomas said and let out a long breath, "I think you will all have to stay here in my house tonight. I have an extra bedroom and a comfortable sofa. We will figure out how to make everyone comfortable." Inside the warm farmhouse, Thomas helped his 3 unexpected guests feel better. He made hot tea for everyone and found extra warm blankets while the strong wind continued to shake all the windows of the house. The electric lights flickered on and off once. Then twice. Kate sat down near the fireplace to warm her cold hands. Mary opened a thermos bottle that had hot soup inside that she had been saving for her trip. Grace sat quietly in the corner of the room, still looking nervous and not sure what to do. "I really hope the electricity does not stop working," Thomas said as he checked the lights in the room. Right at that moment, all the lights went out and everything became dark in the darkness. Thomas heard Kate laugh in a gentle way. "Well, I think we are going to have quite an adventure tonight." Thomas found some candles and old oil lamps in his cabinets. Soon the living room was filled with soft, golden light that made everything look warm and peaceful. For the first time in 3 whole years, Thomas's house felt full of life again, with people talking and moving round as they all got ready for what would clearly be a very long night together. Thomas began to think that maybe this storm would bring more than just cold weather and snow to his life. Sometimes he thought to himself, the people you need the most come to you when you least expect them. The soft light from the candles moved and danced on the walls of Thomas's living room. The 4 people who did not know each other before tonight were now getting comfortable for a long night together. Outside the house, the wind made loud, scary sounds like a wild animal. But inside the house, the warm fire crackling made everyone feel safe and protected. Kate pulled her soft blanket closer around her body and looked round the cozy room. "I must tell you, Mr. Bennet, you have such a beautiful home here. It really feels like the kind of place where a happy family would live." Thomas's face became very sad when he heard these words. Yes, it was exactly that kind of place once. Upon a time, my dear wife Emma and I brought up our daughter Lucy in this house, but that feels like it happened so very long ago now. Mary, who was the older woman with grey hair, put down her warm cup of tea on the small table. "I understand exactly how you feel about that. My husband, James, and I lived together happily for 42 wonderful years before he died last spring. After he was gone, our big house felt much too large and much too empty for just me. That is the reason why I am moving to a much smaller house in the village now." Grace, who was the young girl, had been very quiet during the whole evening so far, but now she began to speak in a very small and soft voice. "I never got to have a real family home like that. I grew up living with many different foster families who took care of children, but none of those families really wanted to keep me forever." When Thomas heard this, he felt his heart fill up with sadness and sympathy for the young girl. "That must have been extremely hard and painful for you to go through." "Yes, it really was very hard," Grace said as she nodded her head. "But even during the worst times, I always had dreams about having a special place where I truly belonged. I imagined having somewhere I could take photographs and maybe even hang my favorite pictures on the walls for everyone to see." Kate smiled in a very warm and friendly way when she heard this. "So you are someone who takes photographs for a living?" For the first time since arriving at the house, Grace's face became bright and happy with excitement. "I want to become a photographer more than anything else in the world. I have this old camera that I bought at a charity shop where they sell used things cheaply. I have been teaching myself how to take good pictures by photographing everything I see. Beautiful flowers, interesting buildings, and people when they do not know I am taking their picture. I believe that photography can help show people the beauty that exists in ordinary everyday things that they might not notice." "That sounds absolutely wonderful," Mary said with genuine admiration. "I worked as a teacher at the local school for 30 whole years. During all those years, I always told my students that every single person has some special gift or talent inside them. It sounds like you have already discovered what your special gift is." Kate nodded her head in agreement. "I discovered my special gift as well, working with and helping animals. I decided to become a veterinarian because I wanted to help poor creatures that cannot speak words to tell us when they are hurt or sick. But recently, I have been having serious doubts about whether I am good at this work. Why would you doubt yourself?" Thomas asked with curiosity and concern. Kate's voice became very quiet and sad when she answered. "Just last month, I was not able to save a beautiful horse whose name was Thunder. He was only 5 years old, which is still very young for a horse. His owners brought him to me because they trusted me completely to make him healthy and better. Again, but I was not good enough to help him, and he died. Ever since that terrible day, I have been wondering and worrying about whether I am really meant to do this kind of work." Thomas leaned forward in his chair toward Kate, "When my beloved wife Emma was very sick with cancer, we went to see many different doctors who tried their best to help her get better. Some of the treatments and medicines worked for a little while, but others did not help her at all. But every single one of those doctors cared deeply about Emma and did absolutely everything they possibly could to help her. That caring and effort was what mattered most to Emma and me. Not whether the doctors could perform impossible miracles, but that they truly cared about helping her with their whole hearts." Mary reached across the space between their chairs and gently patted Kate's hand with her own wrinkled hand. "During my 30 years of teaching children, I learned that caring deeply is the most important part of any job where you are trying to help other people or animals. You cannot save every single patient that comes to you, dear Kate, but you can always give your complete heart and soul to trying your very best to help them." Grace looked at Thomas with eyes full of curiosity and interest. "What was your wife Emma like as a person? Can you tell us about her?" Thomas's face became soft and gentle when he heard this question about his dear wife. Thomas opened his eyes early in the morning, just like he did every single day on his farm. But when he woke up this morning, something felt very different from all the other mornings during the past 3 years. Instead of hearing the usual, complete silence that filled his house every morning, he could hear soft, quiet voices coming from his kitchen downstairs. Thomas got dressed quickly and walked down to the kitchen. There he found Kate already awake and fully dressed, standing by the window and looking outside toward the big red barn where he kept his cattle. "Good morning, Thomas," Kate said with a bright, friendly smile on her face. "I hope you do not mind that I made some fresh coffee for everyone. While I was sitting here, I could hear your cattle making noises and moving round in the barn outside. Some of those sounds make me think that some of your animals might be feeling sick or uncomfortable." Thomas looked at Kate with surprise and confusion. "You can really tell that some animals are having problems just by listening to the sounds they make from inside the house." "Yes, I can," Kate replied confidently. "After working as a veterinarian for 10 whole years, you begin to learn how to hear the difference between normal animal sounds and the sounds that animals make when they are in pain or trouble. Would it be okay with you if I walked up to the barn and took a careful look at your cattle to see if any of them need help?" Thomas paused for a moment and felt uncertain about this idea. For all these years since his wife Emma had died, he had always taken care of all his farm animals completely by himself without any help from other people. "I really do not want to cause you any trouble or extra work. You are a guest staying in my house, and I should be taking care of you." Kate walked over to Thomas and put her hand gently on his arm in a kind way. "Thomas, you must understand that helping sick or hurt animals is never trouble for me at all. Taking care of animals is what I love to do more than anything else in the whole world. Please, you would be doing me a favor by letting me help your animals." While Thomas and Kate were talking, Mary had been working quietly in Thomas's kitchen. She had found bags of flour and some fresh eggs. And now she was busy making a big stack of delicious pancakes for everyone to eat for. "Breakfast, Mrs. Fletcher. You really do not need to cook food for us," Thomas said when he noticed what Mary was doing. Mary laughed in a warm and happy way. "Please call me Mary, not Mrs. Fletcher. And I want you to know that cooking food for other people makes me feel very happy and useful. I have not had anyone to cook for in many months since my husband died. You would actually be doing me a big favor by letting me make breakfast for everyone." Just then, Grace came walking down the stairs carrying her old camera in her hands. The beautiful bright morning sunlight that was shining through all the windows immediately caught her attention and made her eyes light up with excitement. "Mr. Bennet," Grace said with great enthusiasm in her voice, "would it be perfectly okay with you if I took some photographs of your farm and the land round it? The way the white snow looks covering all the fields and trees is absolutely the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." Thomas felt his head spinning a little because of all this activity happening in his house at the same time for 3 long years. Every single one of his mornings had been exactly the same routine. He would drink his coffee completely alone, then walk out to check on his animals completely alone, then come back inside and eat a very simple breakfast completely alone. But now his kitchen was full of people talking and laughing and moving round with energy and life, I think. "I suppose that taking pictures would be all right," Thomas said, still feeling confused by how different everything felt. Kate and Thomas put on their warm coats and walked outside together to the big barn. Once they were inside the barn, Kate immediately started working to examine each of the cattle very carefully. She moved with confidence and skill as she gently checked every single animal to see how healthy they were. "This cow right here," Kate said as she pointed to a large brown female cow. "She has the beginning stages of a serious infection that could make her very sick. And these 3 cows over here need much better food with more nutrition to keep them healthy. When was the last time you had a veterinarian come to examine all of your animals?" Thomas felt embarrassed and ashamed when he heard this question. "It has been more than a whole year since a vet looked at them. Money has been very difficult for me since Emma died from cancer. I have been trying to take care of everything on this farm completely by myself without spending money on help." Kate's face showed that she was worried about the animals, but she did not look angry at Thomas for waiting so long. "Thomas, you are doing a truly amazing job keeping this entire farm running all by yourself. But farm animals need regular medical care from a veterinarian, just like people need to see doctors regularly to stay healthy. What if you and I could work together to find a way for me to help your animals that would not cost you very much money?" 2 whole days had gone by since the big winter storm had ended, and now the roads were finally clear enough for cars to drive on them safely again. But something strange was happening. None of the 3 women seemed to want to leave Thomas's farm and go back to their own lives. They had discovered something very special and important at this place, and Thomas had found something that he thought was gone from his life forever: the feeling of hope. On that morning, everything in their peaceful world suddenly changed in a terrible way. Thomas walked outside to the barn to check on his most important bull, whose name was Winston. This huge strong bull had belonged to Thomas's father before him, and Winston had been the most valuable and loved animal on the Bennet farm for 8 long years. But when Thomas reached the barn and looked inside, he found Winston lying on his side on the ground, breathing very hard and fast, and completely unable to stand up on his forelegs. "Kate," Thomas shouted out in great fear and panic, "something is very wrong with Winston. Please come help me right away." Kate heard Thomas's frightened voice and came running as fast as she could to the barn. As soon as she saw Winston, she immediately got down on her knees beside the huge sick bull. Her skilled hands moved quickly and carefully all over Winston's large body, checking to see how hot he was, listening closely to the way he was breathing, and looking carefully at his eyes to see if they looked healthy. "Thomas, Winston is extremely sick," Kate said in a very serious voice. "From what I can see and hear, this looks like he has severe pneumonia, which is a very dangerous sickness in the lungs. If we do not give him the right treatment very quickly, he could die." When Thomas heard these terrible words, he felt like his whole world was falling down and crashing all round him. "Winston is the very last connection I have left to all the hard work my father did on this farm. Many years ago, if I lose Winston now—" Kate put her strong, steady hand on Thomas's shoulder to comfort him. "We are not going to lose Winston, Thomas. But I will need to work with him all through the night without sleeping, and I am going to need help from other people." Mary appeared in the doorway of the barn, looking worried. "What can we do to help save Winston? I will need lots of warm, soft blankets, plenty of hot water, and someone to help me give Winston his medicine every few hours throughout the whole night," Kate explained to everyone. "We will all be here to help you," Grace said in a strong and determined voice as she joined the group of people gathered round the sick pool. "We will do whatever it takes to make Winston better again that long, difficult night." All 4 people took turns sitting next to Winston and helping to take care of him. Kate gave the big bull his medicine and watched his breathing very carefully to make sure he was still alive. Mary kept many blankets warm by the fire in the house and brought cups of hot tea to everyone so they could stay warm and awake. Grace held up bright lanterns so Kate could see clearly what she was doing in the dark barn. Thomas stayed right next to Winston's big head, talking to the bull in a soft, gentle voice to comfort him. "Come on, my old friend," Thomas whispered quietly to Winston. "You are much stronger than this terrible sickness. Please do not give up on me now when I need you most." As the long dark hours of the night went slowly by, Thomas began to tell Kate, Mary, and Grace things about his life that he had not talked about with anyone for many years. He told them stories about his father, who had worked extremely hard to build this farm from absolutely nothing when he was a young man. He talked about his beloved wife Emma, who had loved every single animal that lived on their farm. He shared memories of his daughter Lucy, who had moved far away to live in the big city because she thought the farm was too small and boring for all her big dreams and plans for her life. "I have been so terribly afraid of losing everything that matters to me," Thomas said honestly as he gently stroked Winston's big head with his hand. "First I lost my dear wife Emma to cancer. Then I might lose this farm if I cannot pay the bills, and now I might lose Winston too. I thought that if I did not let anyone get close to me or become important in my life, it would not hurt so much in my heart when they left me or died." Mary, who was sitting nearby with a warm blanket round her shoulders, spoke in a soft, kind voice. "Thomas, I felt exactly the same way after my husband James died. I thought that if I moved to a much smaller house and kept completely to myself, without making any new friends, I would be safe from having my heart broken again. But these past few days here with all of you have reminded me that life is not meant to be lived completely alone." The very first rays of bright morning sunlight came shining through the barn windows as Kate bent down to check Winston's breathing one more time. She listened carefully to his chest and felt his forehead to see if he still had a fever. Very slowly, a big happy smile began to spread across Kate's tired face, even though she had not slept all night long. "His fever has completely broken," Kate said in a quiet whisper so she would not wake up the sleeping bull. "Winston is going to be perfectly okay now." Thomas got down on his knees next to Winston and put his rough farmer's hand on the bull's warm side. He could feel Winston's heart beating strong and steady inside his chest. Tears of great relief and happiness began to run down Thomas's withered old cheeks. "Thank you so much, Kate," Thomas said to her, and his voice was thick with deep emotion. "You saved Winston's life. You saved everything that matters most to me in this world." Over the next few weeks that followed, something absolutely beautiful and wonderful began to grow and develop on the Bennett farm. Kate made the important decision to stay at the farm permanently and set up her veterinary practice there, exactly like she had suggested during that first night. She worked very hard to build a small animal clinic inside one of Thomas's old unused barns. Very soon, farmers from all over the entire county were bringing their sick cows, horses, sheep, and other animals to Kate for help and treatment. Mary made an exciting discovery when she learned that the nearby village school desperately needed a substitute teacher to help with classes. She immediately fell in love with a wonderful new group of students who reminded her exactly why teaching children had always been her greatest passion in life. Mary decided to rent a small cozy cottage in the town, but she chose to spend most of her evenings at Thomas's farm. There she would cook delicious dinners for Thomas and Kate, and she helped them plan many different ways to make the farm more welcoming and interesting for visitors. Who wanted to come and see farm life. Grace made an important choice to enroll in a photography course at a college in the nearest big city, but she faithfully returned to the farm every single weekend. Her photographs of daily farm life were so incredibly beautiful and artistic that Mary suggested they should create a special calendar using Grace's pictures to sell at the local market in town. Grace's amazing photographs showed the farm during all the different seasons of the year: the tiny baby lambs born in the spring, the green fields full of crops in the summer, the harvest time in the autumn, when they gathered all the food they had grown, and yes, even the winter storms that could sometimes bring the most unexpected and wonderful gifts to people's lives. Thomas discovered that he had become busier and much happier than he had been in many long years, with Kate's veterinary practice bringing many different people to the farm every day, and Mary's creative ideas for educational programs where children could come and learn about farm animals and growing food. The old farm became a busy center of community activity once again. One beautiful sunny afternoon in late spring, when the flowers were blooming and the grass was green, Thomas was working hard to repair a broken fence when he heard the sound of a familiar car driving up his long driveway. His daughter Lucy stepped out of the car and looked round at everything with great amazement and surprise written all over her face. "Dad," Lucy called out to her father with confusion in her voice. "What has happened to this place? Everything looks so different. It looks like it is alive again." Thomas broke into a huge happy grin and walked quickly over to give his daughter a big warm hug. The farmyard all round them was completely full of busy activity and life. Kate was carefully examining a beautiful horse, while its young owner watched with eager excitement. Mary was leading a large group of school children on a walking tour around the vegetable garden, teaching them important lessons about how to grow healthy food. Grace was taking pictures of everything that was happening, and everyone could hear her camera clicking happily as she captured all the wonderful moments. "Some very special women came into my life and taught me that a place is only as good and meaningful as the people who fill it with love and activity," Thomas explained to Lucy with great pride in his voice. "I completely forgot that important lesson for a while after your dear mother died and left us." Lucy looked round at all the amazing activity happening everywhere on the farm, and a big smile appeared on her face. Mother would have absolutely loved seeing all of this, wouldn't she? Yes, she would have been right in the middle of everything, probably cooking a huge dinner for everyone and making sure that no one felt left out or unwelcome. Thomas said with a laugh full of joy and happy memories. That evening, they all gathered round Thomas's big kitchen table for one of Mary's famous delicious roast dinners. Everyone was laughing and talking and sharing stories about their day. Thomas looked round at all the faces filled with happiness and felt his heart overflow with gratitude for the storm that had brought these amazing women into his life.